struggling single dad rescues beaten woman and her child. Days later, police reveal their shocking identity. Rain fell in furious sheets, hammering the tin roof of Briggs Auto Repair like 1,000 tiny fists. The November wind howled through the narrow alley behind the garage, bending the lamplight into strange, flickering shapes. James Briggs, wrench in hand, flipped off the final breaker and locked the service bay. He tugged his hood over his head and turned toward the back lot, boots squelching against the ground. That was when he saw it, a movement, small, quick, and huddled. Behind the rusted dumpster near the fence, James froze. He reached into his coat pocket and clicked on the flashlight. The beam sliced through the darkness and landed on a pair of figures, crumpled like discarded laundry. A woman, a child. The woman sat with her back against the metal bin, her knees pulled tight to her chest. Her blonde hair was plastered to her face, her jacket torn and soaked, streaked with mud and blood. One arm wrapped protectively around a tiny girl who couldn't have been more than 2 years old. The child clutched a stuffed animal, her face bruised, blank, silent. James's breath caught. "Ma'am?" he said, stepping closer, voice low, careful. "Are you okay?" The woman looked up, flinching at the light, her lips parted, trembling. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes darted behind James into the shadows, like she was expecting someone or something to come tearing through. Then, finally, her voice broke through the storm. Barely audible. "Please, just one night." James knelt slowly, setting the flashlight on the ground, letting the light fall gently to the side. He could see now. Her lower lip was split, her cheekbones swollen, her hands scraped and trembling. The child in her lap, so still, so unnaturally quiet, burrowed closer, her bunny pressed tight to her chest, and in that moment, James was back there. Back in the ER waiting room, 5 years earlier, holding his wife's purse with numb fingers. The beeping machines. The silence that followed. The police officer explaining the accident, the drunk driver. The words, nothing more they could do. The sound of his daughter Lisa crying in the next room, only 3 years old and motherless. He swallowed hard. The woman's eyes found his again, wide and terrified. She looked like a creature pulled from fire, singed, broken, barely breathing. James knew that look. He had worn it himself. He rose to his feet slowly, never breaking her gaze, and extended a hand toward her, not touching, just offering. "You're safe here," he said. She didn't move. "I won't ask you any questions," he added. "But it's cold, and your little girl needs to get warm." The woman looked down at her child, then back at him. Her jaw trembled, but she nodded once. James took a step back, giving her room. She struggled to her feet, cradling the girl in her arms like glass. The child whimpered once but did not cry. Her eyes, large and vacant, never blinked. James led them around the side of the garage, under the tin awning, and unlocked the door to the office. He glanced back one last time before flicking on the light. Rain streamed from the edge of the roof, splashing against the gravel. In the faint glow of the street lamp, James could see the woman's silhouette, the girl in her arms, the tattered remnants of whatever life they had just escaped from. And though he knew nothing about who they were or where they came from, he knew this: they were not going back out into the dark. Not tonight. James opened the narrow door to the storage room above the garage and flicked on the old ceiling light. It flickered once, then cast a dim amber glow over the space. The room was modest, just a couch, a dusty dresser, and a patched-up rug. But it was dry, warmer than the night outside, and private. "You can stay up here," James said quietly. "It's not much, but it's safe." The woman hesitated at the threshold, her arms still wrapped tightly around her daughter. The girl's eyes blinked slowly, drowsy and dazed. James stepped aside to let them in. "There's a small bathroom down the hall, towels in the closet. I'll find something for the little one to wear. My daughter Lisa's outgrown clothes, maybe." The woman nodded once, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you." He waited a beat, then offered gently, "What's your name?" She hesitated, eyes flickering with caution. "Izzy," she said at last. "My daughter's name is Luna." James smiled, a small, genuine thing. "Nice to meet you, Izzy." "I'm James. If you need anything, I'll be downstairs." As he turned to leave, Izzy spoke again, just 2 words. "Thank you." It was the way she said it that stopped him. Not polite, not casual, but fragile, like she hadn't said those words in a long time. Like the concept of someone helping her still felt unfamiliar. James went back downstairs, poured 2 mugs of chamomile tea, then brought one up and left it on the table near the couch. He didn't push conversation, just a quiet knock and a soft, "Tea, if you'd like," then left her alone again. When he returned home across the gravel lot, his 6-year-old daughter Lisa was already brushing her teeth, her favorite stuffed bear perched on the bathroom counter. She looked up when he entered. "Dottie," she whispered, "was that a lady I saw through the window?" James knelt beside her. "Yes, sweetheart. She and her little girl needed help. They'll be staying in the garage tonight." Lisa nodded solemnly. "Like when the dog got lost in the snow and we let him sleep in the laundry room?" "Kind of like that," James said, smiling. "Except these are people, and they need kindness too." Lisa was quiet for a moment, then scampered off. A minute later she returned, clutching a small, well-worn teddy bear with a yellow ribbon around its neck. "She can have this," she said. "It's my backup bear, in case her little girl forgot hers." James's throat tightened. He kissed the top of Lisa's head. "That's very kind of you." Back at the garage, he crept up the stairs once more. The door to the storage room was closed, but light glowed faintly from beneath it. He tapped gently. When Izzy opened it, Luna was curled on the couch under one of James's old blankets, the tea mug empty on the table. Izzy's eyes were red-rimmed, but calmer. She glanced down as James held out the bear Lisa had offered. "My daughter wanted Luna to have this," he said. Izzy hesitated, then took the bear with both hands. Her lips parted slightly in surprise, as if the idea of someone giving them something, just because, was unfamiliar. "She'll love it," she said softly. James nodded. "One more thing." He stepped inside and gently placed a folded wool blanket over Luna's sleeping form. It was pale blue with tiny embroidered stars, hand-stitched by his late wife years ago when Lisa was still a baby. He hadn't used it in a long time, not since the hospital, not since everything changed. Izzy's eyes widened. James stepped back. "It's clean. My wife made it when our daughter was little." Izzy's lips trembled. She looked from the blanket to James, then back down to Luna. For the first time since he had found her, she looked directly at him. Not with fear, not with suspicion, but with something closer to trust. She gave a tiny nod, and in that gesture, a flicker of gratitude, a crack in the armor, James saw the first fragile thread of something new, something whole, something hope. James sat on a dusty crate in the loft above the garage, holding a warm mug of chamomile tea in both hands, while Izzy sat across on the couch, Luna asleep in her lap. The storm outside had quieted to a dull rain, shadows drifting on the walls like memories. "I wasn't always running," Izzy began, voice tight. She glanced down at Luna, her golden hair damp and clinging to her face. "I came from a good family. They had money, reputation. I married into it, a man from a well-known family. He had everything except respect. He controlled everything, who I saw, what I wore, what I said. He used his wealth to isolate us, to gaslight me. And when I found out, he was planning to take Luna from me, claim she belonged to him alone. I knew I had to get away." Izzy's voice cracked. She dropped her gaze, fingers stroking the child's hair. James nodded slowly, handing her the blanket again, a small gesture she almost refused before accepting. He cleared his throat gently. "I lost my wife in a car wreck 3 years ago. Lisa was just 3. I had to figure out how to do this, how to be both mother and father. Some nights, I cried more than she did, but she needed someone steady. And I could never leave her." Izzy's head lifted, eyes meeting his. The shared pain of raising a child alone bridged a gap neither expected. They sat quietly for several minutes, just the sound of rain tapping on tin and the low hum of the heater. Finally, Izzy spoke again. You don't know what it is to live with a fear that at any moment you might lose your child, that the person you trusted most will demand her back, that you're not safe even in your own skin. Every night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake listening to her breathing, wondering if it would stop, and if that would be the last moment I ever held her. James swallowed hard, remembering nights spent cradling Lisa when nightmares woke her, holding her, while whispering promises he wasn't sure he believed he could keep. Luna stirred then, eyelids fluttering. She let out a small whimper and a tiny flicker of feverish warmth under Izzy's hand. Izzy's eyes panicked. She placed the mug down and scooped Luna up, softness and fear colliding. "She's hot," Izzy said, voice cracking. James quickly stood. "Hold her here," he said, grabbing a damp cloth from the bathroom nearby. He soaked it in cool water and returned, gently placing it on Luna's forehead and shoulders. Izzy folded around her daughter as a shield. Luna pressed into her, eyes clenched shut. James knelt beside them, offering a second cloth. "Just breathe steady," he coached quietly. Izzy looked at him, tears spilling free. She sniffed and shook. I didn't mean to fall apart." "I'm so sorry." James said nothing, focusing on Luna's temperature, gently wiping her face and neck. Luna's whimper faded. Her breathing slowed. The fever seemed to ease under the cool cloth. Izzy let out a breath she'd been holding. She looked at James, voice shaking. "I haven't seen anyone care like that. Not since my mother died." James met her gaze steadily. He brushed damp hair from Luna's forehead. "She's strong," he said, "because you brought her here, because you chose safety." Izzy blinked hard, swallowing. She looked between her daughter and the man who had offered them refuge. Something raw shifted in that moment, a bond unpronounced, born of shared loss and choice. They sat like that for a while, Luna asleep again, Izzy weeping quietly, James steady and watching with a protective calm. Outside, the rain petered away, the sky hinting at dawn's approach. In the stillness of that workshop loft, world's pain seemed to pause. They did not need words now, not yet. They only had to sit, holding, kneading hope into shape, rebuilding fragile things, trust, safety, connection. And quietly, in the soft hum of an unspoken promise, their journey began. James leaned back in the old office chair, watching Izzy organize a pile of invoices and appointment slips on the garage bulletin board. Her hands moved swiftly, her focus unbroken as she recalculated totals and shifted schedules. She issued 2 refunds and corrected a billing error James had overlooked. "You're good at this," he said, setting down his wrench and wiping his hands. Izzy looked up, startled. "I used to work in finance," she said softly, her eyes flicking back to the paperwork. "Before, things changed." James nodded, not pressing. "Well, this mess has been waiting on someone smarter than me. I appreciate it." She offered the barest smile, then returned to her work, aligning receipts with quiet precision. Meanwhile, Lisa crouched beside a half-open cabinet where Izzy had stashed her worn jacket. Curiosity lit her small face as she reached into a pocket and pulled out a folded folder. She studied the cover, then turned toward James. "Daddy, what's this?" Before James could respond, Izzy spun around, pale. She stepped forward quickly. "Lisa, honey, that's not for you." Her voice was steady, but her body was tense. She knelt beside the girl, gently taking the folder and pressing it to her chest. "It's from before." James approached, crouched beside them. "It's okay," he said quietly, his voice even. "We all have befores." Izzy's eyes met his. Fear flickered there, but also vulnerability. James looked at Lisa and added, "What matters is who she is with Luna now." Izzy exhaled shakily. Her hand still clutched the folder. She looked like she might break. But then, Lisa handed her a small teddy bear and smiled. "It's okay, Mommy Izzy. Everyone has secrets. I won't tell." That night, after Lisa had gone to bed, James returned to the garage office with 2 mugs of tea. He found Izzy sitting in the glow of the desk lamp, the folder open in front of her. He placed a mug beside her. For later, she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you." James sat quietly as she unfolded a newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Heiress missing with child after allegations of abuse." Her name was in bold, Isabel Dawson Whitmore, accompanied by a photo of a younger Izzy holding Luna in front of a crowd of flashing cameras. "They made me out to be dangerous," she said, "told the world I was unstable, that I ran with Luna because I couldn't cope." James said nothing. "They wanted to eat us, me," she added, "erase us. They wanted to own Luna, like she was part of their legacy, not a child, not mine." She pulled out another image, Luna as a newborn in a hospital crib. The name tag read Dawson. Her hands trembled slightly. "I left with nothing," Izzy whispered. "No bank cards, no ID, just what I could carry." James looked at her gently. "But you made it this far. That says something. I never planned to involve anyone else. I thought I'd hide forever, but then," she met his eyes, "then I saw how you look at Lisa, how safe she is with you. I wanted that for Luna." James reached out and placed a hand lightly over the clipping. "You're giving her that now?" Izzy's voice cracked. "I did not expect you to stay after seeing this." "I saw enough that first night," he replied. "I saw a mother holding her child in the rain. That was real." Tears slid silently down her cheeks. She folded the clipping and photo carefully and placed them back into the folder. Then, without a word, she reached for the mug he brought her. Her hands brushed his. "I trust you," she said quietly. James nodded. "I trust you too." The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the heater. The ghosts of their pasts hovered, but they were no longer in control. Between invoices, old clippings, and late-night tea, something fragile and new had started to grow. Trust. And in that room above the garage, surrounded by the faint scent of motor oil and memory, they took the first quiet step toward something bigger than either of them had dared hope for. Healing. The knock came just before sundown. James was rinsing oil from his hands at the utility sink behind the garage when he saw 2 patrol cars pull up, red and blue lights swirling silently. His gut twisted. The officers stepped out casually, not with urgency, but with the unmistakable air of people looking for answers. One of them, a broad-shouldered deputy with kind eyes, tipped his hat. "Evening, Mr. Briggs. Got a minute?" James wiped his hands on a rag, nodding slowly. "What's this about?" The deputy glanced toward the small apartment above the garage. "Just following up on a missing persons report. A young woman, blonde, early 30s. Possibly traveling with a child." James felt his chest tighten. He kept his voice even. "This town doesn't see much of that." The deputy nodded. "True, but the name flagged at the station. Isabel Dawson. Ring any bells?" James shook his head. "Nope, just me and my little girl here." He folded the rag and tucked it into his back pocket. "Garage stays quiet most nights." After a few more questions, none of which James answered with more than polite denial, the officers thanked him and left. That night, long after Lisa and Luna were asleep, James sat alone at the workbench in the garage. His thoughts buzzed. His hands absently rummaged through the box of lost and found items customers often forgot. A small silver glint caught his eye, a delicate bracelet tucked under a stack of receipts. He picked it up. The inscription was simple, elegant. Luna Whitmore. His heart dropped. He turned it over again, reading it 3 times to make sure he had not misread. Whitmore. The name felt like thunder. Maxwell Whitmore, media mogul, billionaire. The family that owned news networks, radio stations, newspapers across the entire state. Untouchable. And now, somehow, connected to the woman sleeping in the room upstairs. James climbed the stairs with slow, deliberate steps. He found Izzy sitting by the window, cradling a lukewarm mug of tea. She looked up. "Can't sleep?" He handed her the bracelet. "Found this." Izzy stared at it. Her shoulders dropped, as if a weight she had carried too long had finally been called by name. She didn't try to explain. Not right away. "I was going to tell you," she said finally, voice raw. "Just not like this." James stood silently, the weight of the moment heavy between them. "My name is Isabel Whitmore Dawson," she continued, eyes fixed on the bracelet. "I married into the Whitmore family, into power, legacy, control. My husband died in a plane crash 2 years ago. His father, Maxwell, used that moment, my grief, my isolation, to try and take Luna." Her voice cracked. "They said I was unfit, said I had no right to raise her the way I wanted. I fought them, but money talks louder than grief in court." James exhaled slowly, trying to absorb it all. "You ran," he said, not accusing, just trying to understand. "I had to," Izzy whispered. "He was going to buy the judge, buy my lawyers, buy the whole system. I knew if I stayed, I'd never see her again." James ran a hand through his hair, his pulse thudding in his ears. He looked at her, not as the scared stranger he took in weeks ago, but as someone who had woven herself into his days, his daughter's life, his thoughts. "All this time," he began. "I never meant to lie," she said quickly, standing. I needed a place to disappear. I needed Luna to have a chance to live like a child, not an heir. Just one place where she could be safe." James turned away, trying to process the storm inside him. Betrayal, confusion, and something deeper, disappointment. But then he heard a soft shuffle behind him. Luna had wandered out of bed, half asleep, dragging her worn stuffed rabbit behind her. Lisa followed seconds later, blinking sleepily. Luna reached out and wrapped her arms around Lisa, nestling against her like a sibling who had known love her whole life. James watched his daughter smile, hug the smaller girl gently, and lead her back to bed without a word. And in that simple gesture, something cracked open inside him. He turned back to Izzy. Her face was tight with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have trusted you sooner." He didn't answer right away, just walked to the couch, sat down, and rubbed his palms together. After a long moment he looked up. "I don't know what's coming, Izzy, but you don't have to face it alone." And for the first time, she didn't flinch. It started with a black SUV and 3 men in tailored suits stepping out like they owned the pavement. The garage door clanked as James looked up from under the hood of a Dodge. Lisa was playing hopscotch on the chalk-drawn driveway. Izzy was inside folding laundry. The tallest man, sharp gray suit, slicked hair, flashed a badge. "James Briggs." James wiped his hands. "Who's asking?" "Douglas Haynes, legal representative for the Whitmore family. We are here under court authorization to conduct a wellness check and deliver custody documentation regarding Luna Whitmore." James's eyes narrowed. "She's a toddler, not a business transaction. We believe Ms. Isabel Dawson, your house guest, is mentally unstable and has abducted the child from her legal guardians." Inside the garage, Izzy appeared with Luna in her arms, her face drained of color the moment she saw the men. James stepped in front of her. "She didn't abduct anyone. She's the mother." Another man, taller, cold eyes, added, "Not legally. Not anymore. Not until the courts decide otherwise. Cinecraft legally?" No. Later that afternoon, 2 uniformed officers arrived, more polite but just as firm. They had no warrant yet, only pressure, presence, intimidation. They asked questions, took notes, watched every movement Izzy made. She stayed close to Luna, trembling but composed. James tried to stay calm, but he felt the fire building in his chest. They were trying to erase her, erase everything she had done since arriving. The kindness, the care, the way she had brought quiet light back into the life of a single dad who thought he had nothing left but tools and grief. They came back the next day with more legal documents and court dates. One of the men mentioned full custody motions. Another spoke of protective services. James sat on the porch after they left, elbows on his knees, jaw tight. Izzy joined him quietly. Luna curled on her lap. "I can leave," she said, barely above a whisper. "Before they take her by force, before Lisa sees something she can't unsee." James looked away. His hands were shaking. "If you go," "They win. If I stay, they'll come after you," she said. "Your daughter, your business." He looked at Luna, her tiny hand curled around his shirt, like she trusted it would never disappear. That night, Lisa crawled into bed with James. "Is Miss Izzy gonna leave?" He didn't answer. "Because I think she belongs here," Lisa said. "Like Mommy sent her." The next morning, 2 officers came again, this time with child welfare agents. Lisa and Luna were in the living room, playing with blocks. One of the agents knelt down in front of Lisa. "Sweetie, has Miss Izzy ever made you feel scared?" Lisa looked confused. "Why would she do that?" "Well, sometimes grown-ups—" The agent started, but Lisa cut her off. "She reads us stories and sings lullabies and makes pancakes with smiley faces. She's not scary. She's better at bedtime than Daddy." James stood frozen. The room went silent. Lisa looked up at him, eyes wide, waiting. Izzy stood in the kitchen doorway, holding Luna, visibly shaking. She had not moved since the agents entered. James looked at his daughter, then at Luna, then at Izzy, and something inside him clicked into place. He took a step forward, voice clear and strong. "Who stays?" One of the agents raised a hand. "Mr. Briggs, this isn't—" "No," James said, louder. "You want to take her? You go through me." A long pause. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Then Luna reached out from Izzy's arms, toward James. "Dada," she mumbled sleepily, nestling into his shoulder when he came to her. He swallowed hard, blinking back something too big for words. The agents made some calls, exchanged some glances, and finally left with a warning about the upcoming court date. But they left, and James stood in the doorway, Luna asleep in his arms. Lisa holding on to Izzy's leg like she would never let go, and in that moment there was no doubt whose side he was on. The courtroom was hushed. Only the tapping of keys and the occasional whisper between attorneys broke the tension. James sat beside Izzy, their hands resting near each other, not quite touching, but close. Luna sat in her lap, clutching the same stuffed rabbit James had patched the week before. Lisa was at home with a neighbor, waiting. She was waiting. Judge Merriman reviewed the files in front of him. Photos of Luna's bruises from the day Izzy fled. Screenshots of threatening texts from Maxwell Whitmore's private number. And Izzy's handwritten journal entries detailing years of fear, surveillance, and emotional abuse. James had helped compile it all, meticulously labeling every piece. "Based on the documentation," the judge said, his voice calm but firm, "the court sees substantial grounds to question the current guardianship claims of the Whitmore estate. Therefore, all custody proceedings are temporarily suspended. Full physical custody of Luna Whitmore is hereby granted to her biological mother, Isabel Dawson, pending final review." Izzy's shoulders collapsed, not from defeat, but from the release of tension too long carried. Tears streamed silently down her face. James exhaled slowly, his hand finally reaching for hers. Maxwell's lawyers scowled but said nothing. They would regroup, no doubt, but for now, Izzy had won. That evening, back in Windermere, the house felt different. James fixed dinner while the girls sat at the kitchen table, coloring side by side. Izzy helped Lisa with her letters and kissed Luna's forehead between bites of toast. She laughed more now, soft, surprised sounds like she was still learning how joy worked again. James stepped back and watched it all. The messy hair, the mismatched socks, the crayons scattered across the floor. The life he never saw coming and never wanted to lose. The next few weeks settled into a rhythm that felt impossibly normal. Izzy found part-time work at the town library. James taught Lisa to ride her bike without training wheels. Luna started giggling in her sleep. Bonus family, Lisa called them now. One rainy afternoon, while folding laundry, James found one of Luna's drawings tucked inside his tool bag. 4 stick figures holding hands. One had a wrench. One had yellow hair. 2 were little. Above it, Luna had scrawled, "My home." It hit him harder than he expected. One night, as the girls were winding down before bed, Lisa chose her favorite book. Izzy rocked Luna in the old armchair, humming that lullaby again, soft and familiar. Then something happened. Luna, drowsy but alert, began to sing along, not babble, not mimic, but actual melody. In her own tiny voice, the room fell silent except for that soft, trembling sound. Izzy froze. The song had been hers, sung in whispers during fearful nights. She had never heard Luna sing it back. Until now. Her hands flew to her mouth, eyes brimming. James stepped forward, pulled both Izzy and Luna into his arms without a word. Lisa crawled onto the couch beside them, rested her head on Izzy's shoulder, and whispered, "This is what home sounds like." Izzy sobbed, but they were not tears of fear or grief anymore. They were the kind of tears people cry when they finally believe they might be safe. James kissed the top of Luna's head, then looked at Izzy, his voice low and sure. "You're not alone anymore." And in that circle of arms and light and lullaby, a new kind of family took root. Not perfect, not traditional, but real and chosen and strong, the kind that was built not in spite of the broken pieces, but because of them. Spring came early to Windermere, dusting the town in dogwoods and hope. 1 year after everything fell apart, Isabel "Izzy" Dawson stood on the courthouse steps, Luna clutched in her arms, as the final ruling echoed in her heart. Sole custody awarded to Isabel Dawson. Richard Dawson found guilty of aggravated domestic violence, criminal intimidation, and unlawful custody interference. It was over. At least, the part where she had to prove she was worthy to keep her daughter. Maxwell Whitmore's media empire collapsed in disgrace. Investors vanished. Stocks plummeted. Headlines labeled it one of the most spectacular corporate downfalls in recent memory. But louder than any financial report was the voice of the people. Hashtags like "Justice for Izzy" and "Protect Mothers Not Money" flooded social media, turning Izzy's story into a national awakening. A photograph of her in court, Luna in her arms, strength in her eyes, appeared everywhere. NPR called her a symbol of modern maternal resilience. CNN featured her in a primetime special. The Atlantic wrote, "One woman's courage became a national reckoning." But Izzy did not fade into wealth or privacy. She stayed in Windermere. She returned to the same garage where James once handed her a warm cup of tea and a quiet place to rest. Together, they raised Lisa and Luna as sisters. And together, they founded Rise and Reclaim, a nonprofit for survivors like her. More than shelter, it offered second chances, legal aid, therapy, childcare, job training, a community where dignity was restored. Thousands of letters poured in. Women who had never spoken their truth before now dared to. Some had lived in fear for years. Others wrote of finally escaping. One note read, "I watched your story while holding my baby and a suitcase. I left the next morning." James became her partner in mission and in life. He ran free car repair classes for women, teaching them not just mechanics but confidence. The same garage where fear once lingered was now full of light, laughter, and the sounds of rebuilding. Izzy gave speeches, met with lawmakers, pushed for family law reform, but always made it home in time to read bedtime stories. On a sunny Sunday, they took the girls to the park. Luna ran to the slide and waved. "Daddy James, Mommy Izzy, look at me." James reached for Izzy's hand. She smiled, radiant, not with privilege but purpose. The sun caught in her golden hair, not as a crown but as a reflection of everything she had survived. That month, Parents of Courage published her essay. It ended with these words, "I did not just reclaim my daughter. I reclaimed the voices of millions of women silenced by fear, and this time we will not be silent." This was not a story that ended with a verdict. It began with a promise that no woman in danger is truly alone, that no child hiding in fear will be forgotten, that from even the deepest wounds, healing can rise, and that sometimes the safest place in the world is a small-town garage with warm lights, a soft blanket, and someone who believes in second chances. Thank you for watching this powerful journey of survival, resilience, and love. If this story moved your heart, reminded you of the strength it takes to rise after devastation, or inspired you to believe in the power of second chances, please don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to Soul Stirring Story. On this channel, we bring you emotional, real-life tales that heal the soul, touch the heart, and remind us all of the quiet heroes among us. Click that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that might just change how you see life, love, and hope. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and keep believing in the goodness of the human spirit.